Big boy on the rails. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Old Frail and Decrepit. Today we're going to complete our look at custom flatbed loads that I put together. Last time it was almost exclusively Marx. This time we're going to throw in a little Lionel as well, so that you can see what can be done. And also, a couple of weavers that I had. So we're going to have a look at that. This is my latest one here. You're going to see these three together. And this one I just did tonight. So enjoy the video. We're, of course, as usual, we're going to run the trades. So enjoy the videos. All right. So this one isn't a Marx car. It started life as a double spotlight or searchlight car for Lionel. But it was basically just the flatbed and a few pieces and no couplers. So I ended up getting it some pre-war trucks, Lionel trucks, but I also put the Marx tab and slot couplers on it so that it would work with everything that I had at the time. Now for the load, as you can see, I've got, in fact, this is the first one I did this with. I put the packing foam, cut it into strips and glued it into place to hold the car in place. And it does work. I don't run this car very often, which with its size and all, I should probably just change it back to Lionel couplers and then just run it with my post-war stuff. But it is a very good looking display piece for that model of car. Now, these next three also are not Marx. These were, I would say they're probably MPC era, or maybe just after that. But I ended up with three of these. So what do you do with three empty flatbed cars that are super light? Well, first what I did was I stole the trucks off of them to fix other items. And I was gonna just pitch them, and then I thought, you know what? I've seen these out on the railroad. Why don't we see if we can't make one of those cars that has a shared truck? Now for the loads, here I just had an old ratty caboose body, and I just took some thin wire and just wrapped that just to hold it in place. Same thing with these plastic frameworks. These were off of a toy that I was getting rid of. It's funny, you know, your grandkids get into their teens and they don't want to play with that kind of stuff anymore. But I thought, well, what will I do with these? So that's when I came up with the idea, let's see if we can't make a car system where you share these trucks. Now these are Lionel trucks here. What I did was I made a metal piece, a metal plate, tighten this bolt down, nut and bolt here, it's tight. This just has a hole drilled in it. Now originally I had it so that this here would lift off and this would be a separate piece. Well, it was just a little unstable that way. So I put a nut and bolt here, a nut and bolt here. And then for the back one and the front one, I put a nut and bolt, as you can see, leaving a peg that sticks down and goes into this hole here. And when I first did it, I had those metal plates just a little longer, for fear they wouldn't be able to handle the curves. Well, as I ran it some on that inner track with the 027, I found that I had plenty of room. So I drilled new holes, shortened those plates up, and does make for a nice looking consist there. But this is a nice thing to do if you've got old flatbed bodies that you've stolen wheels off of. Oh yes, go ahead and admit it, we all do it. You can make something like this, and it does make for an interesting car setup. This last one here is a piece. You see that hideous green color? That's not my painting. If I paint, I'm going to paint hideously, but it's not going to be that color. I bought this car this way. It was missing the front truck, so I got me another truck off of a donor car, nut and bolt down through there. And this particular car began life as a searchlight car with the generator down in the center. This one, the way it's set up, it had just the one searchlight. I've got another one up here. It's got the same frame, but it's got the two searchlights on it. But again, I just used the hair tie and just held that in place. I first tried just putting this fire engine down in the depression, and one of the times it came back around from the tunnel, the fire engine was gone. So that's why I figured I'd better tie it down. Just going to take a couple minutes here and take a look at this new car that I've done. Now, you've already seen how I did the rest of this consist with the shared trucks. And today, when I stopped by the train store locally here, I ran across this flat car. Got it cheap enough. And as usual, I stole the wheels off of it for another project, which you'll see in the next video, if I put them out the way I'm thinking I will. And we'll just have a look at what I did to this. Now, this particular load here, this was a friction drive pressed steel from probably the 50s from the looks of it. Don't know what brand it was. Little reminiscent of Marx, but I didn't find any Marx logo on it. And this one, oh, if I can get it to come loose, there we go. There you can see, I've got the nut and bolt through, leaving a peg at both ends. And what I did here, I ran the hair tie down through where the original trucks connected, and then I put a zip tie to hold the two of them together. Now on the back one here, went up and over, tied it to the axle. The front one here went over the front wheels because it's got the friction drive, so you couldn't just run it over the axle. So I, behind each wheel, again, ran it down through, zip tied it together, and of course, if you've got a truck, it's got to be hauling something, right? So being here from Nebraska, had to have a little representation of what we usually grow here, which is a whole lot of corn and a whole lot of beans. Depends on which side of the road you're looking on, right? So we're going to run this little deal. If I can get this back together. There we go. Now we're going to go ahead and run this, and you can see that even with now 2 cars that are sharing other wheels, they can still make the turns and hold together. Now, if you don't have the $600 or $700 lying around to buy yourself a Marx Army train, this might be the way you'd want to do it. I looked for these toys at different antique stores, train shows, like this old howitzer. Found it. Didn't know what I was going to do with it. But I also had one of these cars lying around. Now it's made for like lumber or rails or something. Well, it actually worked out really good for holding this cannon in place. I ran a thin piece of wire. This kind of wire they use in floral arrangements. Ran that up through, over the axle, down through and underneath. And it does hold it into place. So that got me started. A couple years before that, I had run into this little dinky toy. It was in terrible shape. The axles were so bent that it wouldn't roll at all. I did bend them back a little. This era here of these die-cast toys, the axles were so thin that any pressure at all, and they would bend out. But, when I got it, it was just the flatbed. It does have the plastic knuckle couplers, so this is an example. You can see where Marx's knuckle couplers do work with the tab and slot. And then I put a piece of I guess this did have the little tab on it. I forgot about that. It's got the little tab. So I got the tab over the front axle, and then the rear I have a piece of wire holding it. So it is removable, just not easily. Besides, it's so frail I wouldn't want to play with that one anyway. This is the most recent one I had. I've had this frame for quite a while. This 8-wheel Army train frame, and it's got clips underneath. It's got the clips underneath it that I think are for like an airplane or something, but there was no way I could clip that with this one. So I put the hair ties over the axle in the front, over the axle in the back, and then around the clip in the center. I just recently got this. In fact, it probably should have given it a bath before I loaded it up. Looks like a dog had chewed on the front of it, so it looks like it's already been to war and back. But that's the most recent one that I've done. And here's another one that I did with the hair ties. A friction drive tank. It's not a Marx. I don't know what brand it is, but it does fit nicely on that regular flatbed. Now this flatbed started out as a one for a wind-up set, so it had the couplers that would slide in and out. Well, it didn't have the couplers with it, but I did have some of the regular couplers, so I just ran a nut and bolt down through there, and that does the job. You know, you can do this with Lionel flatbeds too. Here's a, well, I don't even think that one's Lionel. I think that one's a Weaver. Like these first two here, I think are Weavers. But they are the more scale size. But this Burlington Northern was completely empty. Nothing on it, just a flatbed. So I found a way to get this. Yeah, must put glue dots down on the wheels to hold it in place. But it's looks pretty good with that. Now this here is completely non-prototypical because this has the bulkheads at both ends. Usually you'd find something like lumber or some sort of equipment or something that would be just held in place here. But I thought the colors looked good together, and I really didn't want to put the Union Pacific on the Burlington Northern car. And here's another nice looking die cast car on a very plain Lionel flatbed. Again, some glue dots to hold it right in place. This one here looks like it's the same mold. This one here was a boat carrier. The boat itself came from a different manufacturer. I think the boat is from a company called Ideal. But it was about the right size to fit on that. Now this is a flatbed from the Laser Train. Now I don't know what was originally on it. When I got this, these two girder bridge sections were scotch taped to the flatbed. Well, I didn't like that because eventually it's going to leave some residue. So I went and I put the hair ties on it, and that holds it right in place without doing any damage.